The artist, a story of the soul. In every generation, there are people who feel different. Not better, not greater, just different. They see things others walk past. They feel things others cannot explain. The light through a window, the silence of trees at dusk, the quiet dignity of an old building that has stood longer than most lives. Some people notice these things for a moment, but the artist cannot escape them. They follow him. They linger in his mind long after the moment has passed. And so the artist lives with questions. Why do I feel this way? Why do I see the world like this? Why does something inside me insist that I must create? The questions do not come once. They come every day, sometimes every hour. They are the kind of questions that sit deep inside the soul. Questions about purpose, questions about calling, questions about whether the work even matters. The artist wakes up with energy and uncertainty. Morning light enters the room. The canvas waits quietly against the easel. And somewhere deep inside, a voice whispers, "Today might be the day. Today might be the painting, the masterpiece, the one that finally captures what the heart has been chasing all these years." But before the first brushstroke ever touches the canvas, the battle begins. Where do I start? What do I paint? What is the right subject? What if this one fails too? These thoughts are not weakness. They are part of the calling. Because the artist is not simply making decoration. The artist is searching for truth. And truth is not always easy to find. The burden of seeing. There is a passage in the Bible that many artists unknowingly live their life by. In Ecclesiastes, it says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart." Eternity in the heart. That is a strange phrase, but it explains something about the artist. The artist is someone who senses eternity inside ordinary moments. A beam of sunlight becomes sacred. A quiet path becomes a story. A small cottage becomes a refuge. Something inside whispers, "This matters." But the world moves fast. Most people pass these moments without stopping. So the artist does something unusual. He stops time. With charcoal, with paint, with light and shadow. He captures something fragile before it disappears. The question of being chosen. At some point in every artist's life, another question rises. A dangerous question. Why do I feel like I've been chosen? It's not pride. In fact, it's usually the opposite. It feels more like responsibility, like being given something you didn't ask for. There is a story in the Bible that echoes this feeling. When God called Jeremiah, he said something extraordinary. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That verse has puzzled people for centuries, but for some souls, it feels familiar. Not because they believe they are special, but because something inside them refuses to let them live an ordinary life. They try to ignore it. They try to do something practical, something predictable, something normal. But the calling remains. The brush waits. The canvas waits. And eventually the artist returns. Because not creating becomes harder than creating. The process of creation. Now the painting begins. The first marks are rarely confident. Lines wander. Shapes feel uncertain. Colors don't behave the way the artist hoped. But creation has always been messy. Even the first pages of the Bible describe the world beginning in chaos. In Genesis, it says, "The earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep." Formless, empty, darkness. That sounds strangely familiar to anyone staring at a blank canvas. And then something happens. God speaks. "Let there be light." Light was the first act of creation. And every artist since then has been chasing that same miracle. Painters chase it with color. Draftsmen chase it with shadow. Photographers chase it with lenses. But it is always the same pursuit. Light entering darkness. Order emerging from chaos. Meaning appearing where there was once nothing. The artists struggle. But the artist does not arrive at beauty easily. There are days when the work feels alive. And there are days when it feels impossible. Paintings fail. Ideas collapse. Confidence disappears. Many artists have stood in front of their work and asked the same painful question. Is this the best I can do? Or have I fallen short again? One of the greatest artists in history, Leonardo da Vinci, once said, "Art is never finished. only abandoned. That truth humbles every creator. Because no matter how good the painting becomes, the artist can always see more. More light, more balance, more possibility. Perfection remains just out of reach. And maybe that is by design. Because the pursuit of beauty is what keeps the artist moving forward. Compassion in creation. Something else begins to grow inside the artist over time. Compassion, not because art demands it, but because creation changes the heart. The artist begins to notice the quiet struggles of other people. The tired worker, the lonely neighbor, the family trying to hold life together. And slowly the paintings begin to reflect something deeper. Peace, hope, light in dark places. This is where art begins to resemble something sacred. Because the Bible describes God himself as a creator. And human creativity is often seen as a reflection of that divine image. In Genesis, it says humanity was made in the image of God, not just physically, but creatively. The ability to imagine, to design, to build beauty from nothing. These are not accidents. They are gifts. The long journey. Years pass. Paintings accumulate. Skills grow. But the questions never completely disappear. Every new canvas still begins with uncertainty. Every new idea still carries risk. And strangely, the artist is grateful for that. Because the mystery is part of the calling. The moment the questions disappear, the soul stops searching. And the artist was never meant to stop searching. The quiet realization. Eventually, the artist begins to understand something unexpected. The masterpiece he was chasing his whole life might not be a single painting. It might be the journey itself. Every brushstroke, every failed attempt, every moment of doubt and courage, all of it shaping something far greater than a canvas. It shapes the soul. In Colossians, there is a verse that quietly speaks to creators. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. That changes everything. Because the painting is no longer just about success. It becomes an offering, an act of devotion, a way of honoring the gift that was placed inside the artist long ago. The end that is not the end. Eventually the brush is set down. The painting stands complete, at least for now. The artist studies it quietly. There are things he loves, things he would change, lessons he will carry forward. And once again the same thought appears. I can do better next time. Not out of frustration, but out of hope. Because tomorrow, another canvas will wait. Another idea will rise. Another question will begin. And somewhere deep in the soul, the quiet voice returns. Create.